Welcome to the Rural Revival Podcast. I'm your host, Deanna Larson. Join us today at Berch House, the charming headquarters of No Roots Boots, where we catch up with the visionary behind the brand, Paige Ehnle Heaton. This episode dives into the journey of No Roots Boots, and it highlights the growth, challenges, and community collaborations that have shaped this business since our last conversation. Paige shares insights into why she enjoys working with other small businesses, the importance of community, and key strategies and decisions that have propelled No Roots Boots from its early days to its current success. Plus, she's sharing what brought about some recent changes in her business and some fun new things on the horizon. Before we get started, I want to let you know about a brand new podcast we launched this year called Made Rural. Are you ready to step into the purpose God has uniquely designed for your life? Whether you're chasing a dream, starting a business, or simply longing to make a meaningful difference in the world, the Made Rural podcast is a space where we dive into how to embrace your God-given calling, overcome fear, and step into the life you were created for. In each episode, we'll explore practical steps, powerful stories, and biblical inspiration to help you trust in the purpose God has placed in your heart. It's time to step out of your comfort zone, embrace your God-given purpose, and make an impact in the world around you, especially in these small places that matter most. You can find Made Rural on all podcast platforms and at maderural.co. And now here we go with Paige Heaton. All right, well, we're here with Paige Ehnle Heaton from No Roots Boots in Edelstein, Illinois. Paige, thanks for being back on the podcast.
It has been so long, and
I'm
so excited to chat again.
Yes, we first met and did a podcast in 2019, which I can't believe it's been that long ago.
I know. It's crazy to think about how much has changed since then and just different locations. And yeah, it's been a roller coaster.
I know. It's going to be fun to fill people in.
Yes.
You have gotten married, you've changed the location of your store, and even your whole business model this year. So we've got a lot to talk about. We're here at Berch House, which your followers are all very familiar with. But tell us about this place. This is kind of your headquarters, but how did you get this place? And what's behind the name?
Okay. So it's kind of a long story. My parents' farm where I grew up is about a mile from this house. And we love small businesses. We love small towns, but I think we might love old farmhouses the most.
Yes.
And I grew up kind of with my family. They were always like getting foreclosed houses. I say always, but they would find foreclosed houses. We'd always dream about fixing up old houses. And my mom and dad knew the guy that lived here, obviously growing up. His name was Bob Berchtold. And it's just we've always kind of had a thing for big old white farmhouses.
Yeah.
And there'd been a few that had been knocked down in the area. And so this house sat empty for a little while. And we're like, oh my goodness, we cannot let that one get knocked down. And so I think it was 2020. It was my birthday. I think we came and looked at this house, and my mom had looked at it once before and sent me pictures. I was like, Mom, this house. Yeah. I mean, you obviously love the house that you grew up in,
yes.
But this one, I was like, this is really something special. And so she had looked at it maybe like a couple years before, and then we found out that they were kind of looking to maybe do something with it, whether that was to knock it. I mean, they were just like, what do we do with this?
Yeah.
And so my parents expressed interest, and then we were able to come look at it. And I mean, my now husband had come with me. He's like, this is the house you want. And it was a disaster. I mean, it had been sitting empty for so long.
Yeah.
There was rodents, and it smelled really bad. And I was like, trust the vision. So we got this place. It was kind of during COVID. So we had a hard time getting it because it was locked up at kind of in an estate. So it was a long process to get it. And then once we got into it, it was a very long process to fix it up. But I saw the potential from the day that I walked in. And,
yeah.
It's just really special because of all the sweat equity we've put into it.
Yeah.
And my family helped out a lot. But my parents bought the place, and I lived here for about a year before I got married. I joked I lived in it during construction. I never got to be here during like the full glory of it, but it's a really special place, obviously being a mile from the farm, and just it's so bright and airy, and it's huge, and I feel like it's just kind of a place that's really unexpected, right? A lot of retail places would be in a downtown or in more of a typical warehouse. But when I got married, I was like, nobody else can live in this house. Like, I didn't know what to do with it but our house is a smaller ranch house. And I was just like, this place is just always going to be special to me. So I had the idea, at first, that we were going to have a north house and a south house. And I was like, we're never going to stay here. So I was like, this is just going to become the headquarters. And once I made that switch in my mind, this house is exactly what my creative business needs. And just, it feels like an oasis where I can come and dream big and do the work. And yeah, I don't know how else to explain it other than it's just a really special place. And
it is. Literally every room is creative inspiration all over. I love it. Like, it's hard to choose a room that you want to hunker down in because they're all so great. So
yeah, it's extra special too since I started doing events, which we can get into later. But it's just funny because people that have been here get it. And they'll bring their friends, and they're like, so we're going to this random house off an unlined road in the middle of literally nowhere. And they're like, just wait till we get there. And I think that's extra special too. It's just like, I've always kind of done business unexpected.
Yeah.
And so it just is really on brand for me that I'm in the heart of rural America, a mile from where I learned a lot of life lessons that has helped me in this journey. And I think that's my favorite part about all of it is that it's unexpected, but yet still so on brand for my business and just who I am as a person.
Absolutely. It's the best of rural life.
Yes.
And kind of shows people you can do anything in rural America.
Yes. I mean, you can start a business from anywhere.
Yeah.
And I kept Berch House because his name was Bob Berch Told. And I was like, I want to nod to the history of this. Yeah. And it just kind of stuck. And sometimes I'm like, man, I could have named it something else. That would have made more sense to people, but Berch House just fits. And
it's perfect.
Yeah, it can go anywhere. Who knows what this place will
become. Right, yes. So you mentioned John. You've gotten married since the last time we talked. We got to have a little backstory. How did you guys meet?
So he started selling Channel Seed the same year that I started No Roots Boots. Okay. And he tells a story that he remembers me for forever because he had worked for a different seed sales company pioneer, and he remembers me coming with my dad to get beans. Like, he still remembers the variety of beans we came and picked up.
Wow.
Like, I feel like he just had a little big crush on me for a long time, and he just didn't talk much, which I'm obviously a talker. And so I just never really noticed him. And especially when I was starting my business, he's like, I'd be over there and I'd be like, oh, there's that Paige girl. And I'd just be like, bopping around. He'd be like, you're always working on something. And so I just never paid any mind. I feel like when you first start your business, you're just kind of head down, and that's
absolutely
100% where I was at. But he sold seed to my parents for a while. At one point they were like, what about that John Heaton kid? I was like, I don't know. I just wasn't in the era to be dating. And a couple years later, it was like right place, right time. And I was like, hey, he seems pretty all right. And we just had a lot in common. I feel like starting our businesses the same year, we had kind of both gotten to this point where our businesses were in a good place and you felt like you had the energy to put somewhere else, whereas like those building years are just kind of difficult. And so it was just a couple dates, and I think both of us knew that that was the one, which was, they say when you know, and I didn't believe it until it happened. So yeah. It was great too because like my parents knew him, and they were laughing because when I first told them about it, they're like, they knew if they got too gung-ho, like, yeah, we like him, that I would be like, no. And so they're like, I don't know, didn't you say no a few years ago? And I was like, yep, he's the one for me. So yeah,
love it.
Yep, 30 minutes. Live 30 minutes from where I grew up. They always say, it's right in front of you. And I'd known of him for a long time, but yeah, he's just such a great encourager too, which I always say one of my favorite things about him is he lets me be me. He may not be the big dreamer, but he doesn't ever squash my big dreams. And he just knows that, like, even though I may not pursue him, I have to talk him out. And he really encourages me and all that, and knows that if it's too big or too wild or it's not going to work, I'll come to my senses. But he never squashes my dreams. And that's like, it's just such a huge thing for our relationship too.
That's amazing. And he gets featured on your Instagram every now and then.
He hasn't been on in a while, but he's a big hit. I
yes,
joked.
I'm like,
when he'd come on, I'm like, man, I think the people are sick of me. They're ready for somebody new. But he's a great sport. Everyone's like, oh, he's so good. I'm like, he loves it. He'd be like, did you see how many views I got?
That's awesome.
He's always checking on it. So it's fun.
So good. So when we last met, you were living in the schoolhouse.
Yeah.
And running everything out of there, which is a pretty small space, traveling with your camper. I mean, and now I feel like you've come so far. So fill us in a little bit on what's happened between there and here.
I don't even know how to explain it all, but obviously after we had talked the last time, COVID happened.
Yes.
And that just quite honestly exploded the online portion of my business. I think at the point we met, I had gone online only for the winters.
Yep.
And COVID just really ramped things up. I remember, I just have products I'd get on because everybody was at home. And I remember one of my vendors saying you went from like buying like 20 keychains to next order was like 500 keychains. And I mean, things just really exploded. And it was really exciting. And then we didn't have markets.
Yeah.
So we were really pushing online. And so things just really ramped up for a couple years. And then I moved to Berch House. And I feel like that just pushed things to a whole new level. You have the space. You went from a very small space to a very large space. And that just kind of pushed things to an even, I guess, bigger place. I was going deeper in products because I was selling out really quickly. And I just kind of like grew my business to meet the demand. And that was really, really fun for a lot of years. And, we saw record sales numbers and went to a lot of different shows and kind of found I feel like in the era of 2020 to 2022, I found my like spots. Awesome. Those first couple of years, you're kind of just trying to figure out where you should go. And I really found my sweet spot both on the internet and in person. And so business really just grew. And I grew into this, I think it's like, there's like 4 or 5 bedrooms here. And then I just started kind of filling it up. And then when I got married, like I said, I turned this into my headquarters. And then I had this crazy idea that I should open it up for people to come.
Yeah.
And so I started kind of just really building it out to be like a very inspirational and like unique retail space. And my first event I had here was just bananas. It was so wild. And I feel like I obviously still really love online, but I've learned that I really love hosting. Yeah. Not in a typical brick and mortar situation. I really still believe I would go crazy if I was in a brick and mortar all day, every day. It just doesn't fit my personality. But in the last year, I've just really loved that. I love hosting. I love showing up. I love people coming into my space. And that's been a really, really big change. And online's still been pretty busy, which sometimes I think about, like when I'm shipping orders with my friend, she's like, how do these people find you? I'm like, the internet. I have no idea. So I feel like my heart has shifted a little bit too, just not wanting to go on the road as much. And so it's been a really natural progression of like really loving Berch House pop-ups and focusing online. And then the last like year or two, I feel like I've really been slowing down on just business in general, and then just like all the places that I went, because back in the day I loved to leave, and now I kind of like to stay home, which is,
funny,
an interesting shift. Yeah.
I have loved watching you over the years since we last talked host some amazing events, and they're always different. And so tell people about some of those in case they happen to miss what you've been doing. Like the Here and Gone. Was it Here and Gone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I would say I've done three of my favorite events. One was, I don't remember if we had done that before we had talked, or maybe we did that the year that we talked. But I hosted Here and Gone Mercantile, which was in an old general store that had sat empty. I have a thing for things that are sitting empty.
Me too.
And we basically transformed this old general store in about a month. And I invited 3 of my favorite people in to do it with me. And it's literally in the middle of, it's a couple miles from here.
Yeah.
And there's nothing really going on in that town. And we transformed it into a shop for a day. And we were seriously open just for a day. And we hyped it really hard for a month. People came from all over. And the coolest thing about the Here and Gone Mercantile is Edelstein actually used to be really well known because they had this dance hall called The Hub. Like Lawrence Welk would come and play. And like in that generation, that was a huge deal. People would drive from all over to come dance there. And so it's really fun to hear from community people. Like we haven't seen Edelstein bumping like that happen. Like they're like, the streets were full of cars just parked on the side of the road since the Hub days. And so that was really special. And I would love to do it again, but I've just always kind of believed. I had that idea years before I did it. And so I've always just kind of believed in the right timing, and I've never felt that timing right again. But it's been fun to have a space here that I've done 2 other events that I feel like kind of match the intentionality of that one. I've done one, it was called On Brand at Berch House, and that was probably my most well-attended one. I had a local gal that is so talented at artwork, and she was burning into boots.
Awesome.
And it was
so on brand.
So cool. And people came from, I think we had 2 or 3 states represented that drove all the way to this little house in the middle of nowhere. And it was just so fun to get to watch her do her thing. And that was just a really special event. And then we had one here that we had live music, and we called it Summer Soiree. And that was very much an event focused on gathering people. And I think that's where the shift has started to happen is like I truly, like obviously I want to sell boots. That's how I make a living. But my passion's always been people. And I think because of COVID and the shifts in the internet and how much time we spend consuming, I've really learned that I have a very strong passion for gathering people because community is what we need.
Yeah.
And we can find community on the internet or by listening to podcasts or connecting with, but at the end of the day, we need that face to face. And I feel like that's been something that I've really wanted to implement. And it's worked where I sell boots along the way. But I would say that's like my big goal going forward is just to gather people because I know that we all need that more. So
yeah, I love it. You love small businesses just like I do, small rural businesses especially. And I love watching you partner with different businesses. What do you love about working with other businesses and those collaborations?
I love a lot of things about it. I love being able to support them. I've always said that like if you have a talent, like I want to shout you from the rooftops. Like that is something I'm really passionate about. And I think I've seen so much of how, like when I worked for somebody else before I had the courage to start my own business, how that can just really leave you feeling drained and like that you're not appreciated or what have you. And I've really learned that not everybody's cut out for small business life. It's tricky.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of learned that like those people that have that same burning desire, they just need that encouragement. Mm-hmm. And I remember a lot of people did that for me along the way. Yeah. And so since that's happened and I've had some small businesses be catalysts for my growth, I've always said I want to be able to do that for other people. And so that's just been a big part of just my heart in general. And I think since growing a platform, like I don't want my platform to ever just be about me. And so I like to use it to shout at other businesses. And I love seeing people with their different like handle bend we were talking about earlier, just people with really unique gifts and being able to see those out in the world. And I've learned a lot of time, especially like creatives and makers, like my friend that burns, like she's so talented and she's like afraid to put her art out there. And I'm like, no, this is amazing. And everybody should see it.
Yes.
And I just feel like a lot of times like makers typically love to focus on the craft, right? And they don't spend as much time promoting themselves. And so I'm like, I'll be that cheerleader for you. And so I really enjoy seeing people like in their element and thriving, and being able to like showcase them and their talents. And it obviously I pick people that are in alignment with my brand, and it just makes it super easy and fun. And I hope they gain some traction or some new customers, but I'll always be the supporter of like the little man, and especially young entrepreneurs, because that's important. We were all there once too.
Absolutely.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
So I think we can underestimate in rural America how far of a reach we can have. Because sometimes I think we pigeonhole ourselves and think our customers are going to be in the 5 towns that are closest to us. But your case is a great example of it extends so much further beyond that.
Yeah. I think that's something that I don't know. You hear the saying all the time, if you build it, they'll come.
Yeah.
And I am a firm believer in that. Maybe delusionally so.
Yeah.
But I do really believe, I have some great local support, but I do believe when you create an experience and you put it out there with intentionality and you connect with your audience, people will come. Like I said, that one event, people drove from several states away. And I think that's what it's all about too, is like just really trying to craft this unique experience for people where it's not just about, people may buy, but I want to create a space that they leave and they feel very inspired. Yeah. Because I love when I go, like when I travel, like I just got back from Dallas, Texas, and I, went there really early so that I could go look at different retail shops. And the number of times I've referred to videos I took there because I was so inspired by how they merchandised or some of the different items that they carried. And so I want to be that place. And I'm hoping to be able to even extend that further where I can like create a guide when people come of like where they could stay, restaurants that I love. And so it kind of smushes all the things I love together, right? Where I'm shouting out other small business owners, but also creating an experience. But I do believe that if you build it, people will come.
Yeah.
But you can't be afraid to promote it. You can't be afraid to invest, time and energy and money into creating a space. And I think that's one of the biggest things is a lot of times I feel like people won't give it their full effort. Like I'm thinking about doing a different opportunity that's come up, and I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do it, I have to give it the right amount of time and I have to give it the right amount of effort, because I feel like people can tell when you're half-hearted, like you're doing a little half-hearted. And so I've just kind of always had the mindset of like, you got to give it your all. Yeah. To be able to see if it's going to stick. Because if you give it half effort and it doesn't go well, you're never going to put the rest in. Yeah. So I just prefer to go guns blazing, like, let's go. And then just see if people come. And it's seemed to pay off because I think people can really tell when you're putting it all out there. Mm-hmm.
Since we last talked to, the Western fashion industry has kind of exploded. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. How do you feel like that's impacted your business?
I don't know. I mean, obviously there's more people that are interested in the product, but I feel like also there's more product out there. You can get it at a lot of different price points. So I do feel like there are definitely people that would have never wore Western boots, but now are because it's so mainstream, Yeah. So in some ways it's helped, but I think in other ways too, like I said, there's just more product out there at so many different price points. But I do think it's really fun to be able to educate people on, why this product is the price point that it is. But it has been really fun to see such like a spotlight on the Western industry as a whole,
Yeah.
you know, from Yellowstone. And I just feel like it's just brought a lot of eyes to it, which I think is always great to be able to spotlight like what we do and why we do what we do. So
Definitely. When we did our first interview, your product filled a room in your schoolhouse, and now it fills an entire house. Talk about some of your keys to growth. Like, what would you say to other people to help them grow wisely? Because we all are figuring it out and we all make mistakes, but what have been some of the things that you've done that you're like, this was a good thing?
Yeah. I think one of the greatest things is obviously social media, and especially if you're in a rural area and you don't have all those people so close, you know, like you put a radius around you, you don't have a ton of customers, especially with a niche product. So I feel like social media has always been a huge part of my growth strategy. But also I see a lot of people creating content, and you see, you know, experts telling you to like how to create a viral reel. And I think that's always been something that, you know, looks really glamorous, right? You grow from like 10,000 to 50,000. And my advice is really just to focus on the people that you do have and how can you best serve them. And that's just been something that I've always loved, is like really serving the community that I do have. And obviously you want growth along the way because you got to build to your, or add to your funnel, but really just focusing on the people that I do have and creating different experiences and different products for them. And I feel like my growth has just been, you know, to some people they're like, oh, she got it in the right time and she's really like grown really fast, but it's really been 8 years.
Yeah.
And I'm just so thankful for just the slow growth, because I have made mistakes along the way. During COVID, you know, I was selling out. So then I would like 2x, 3x my next order. And I learned that I just don't operate well that way with that much pressure of inventory and overhead. And so I've kind of always thrived on keeping a lower inventory, even though I fill a whole house now. And making sure that it aligns with my sales numbers. And that's hard to do. And I think at some point, this is one of the biggest things I think that's happened, and moments that have happened since the last time I talked. I grew my business to a point where I wasn't loving what I was doing anymore because it got too big. It felt like too much pressure. And, you know, I was just focusing on the next sales goal to keep everything healthy. And all of a sudden it became a little bit more about hitting that number than the people. And I got to this point, I remember it was like one November, and I just, something hit me, and it was just like, it was a pivotal moment, a pivotal question. And I think a lot of us, especially when you're getting into those thriving years, right? You're building, and then you get to this peak part and you're like, okay, things are going well.
Yes.
And it's really easy to get carried away with that. And suddenly your business and your life has grown to a place that like you don't want it to be anymore. And you're looking around, you're like, how did I get here? And I had this moment where I was just like, growth for what? That was my question for almost a year and a half, 2 years. What am I growing for? Am I growing to feed my ego? Am I growing to feed my followers? Am I growing so that I can be more generous? Like what is the purpose behind this growth? And I think that's when you have to take a really long, hard look at yourself and the life that you want and what you want to be a priority. And I've always joked, I think maybe even in the last podcast, I created my business because I was like, okay, what do I want my life to look like? And then I design it backwards. Well, when you're in the middle of success, you don't think like, everybody's like, you ask how they're doing, you're like, oh, I'm pretty busy. And everyone's like, that's a good problem to have. But when your life doesn't feel or look like you want it to, it's not a good problem. You know?
Yeah.
Everybody just praises growth. But at the end of the day, if the life that you're living is not something that you want or like or enjoy, like it's time to take a step back. And that was a big moment for me, and it came after, the highest of high years. And then I told myself I was going to slow down, and then I proceeded to have an even bigger year the next year. And what that just tells you is that the world and everybody claps for growth, and it's really, really hard. No matter if you know that you want to throttle back, it's really hard to take those actionable steps to move yourself backwards, because the whole time you feel like, the goal is progress, right?
Yeah.
But then I talked about with a lot of my friends, just like the metrics that are easy to see are sales. And you have to look at different metrics that are not, you can't just pull it up on your phone and see how you're doing. Like, what's my happiness level? Where's my fulfillment level? And that was just, I mean, I went through some interesting years trying to figure all of that out. And I feel like I'm finally at a great place where I'm like, I enjoy business, how I'm doing it. And it's taken a lot of hard conversations with the people around me, but also vendors. You know, you go from writing these massive orders. It's like, it's not you, it's me. Like, I don't want it to look like that anymore. And it's really humbling. Everybody loves to go to market and write a big order, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, no, like, that's serving my ego, not my actual goal in life. So I feel like maybe I'm not the best person to speak on growth, because I'm more in a season of like pruning back and like being smaller. But I do believe, you know, in those early days, social media is so important, but also to like the whole way through, my advice would be is to have a checkup with yourself. And especially when you're experiencing success, to be like, okay, is this pushing me in the direction I want to go? Or is it, you know, am I just following the sales and the success?
Yeah.
Because when you follow sales and success, it can sometimes get you to places you don't want to be, you know, or you're carrying a product just because it's going to sell, not because it's something that you truly love. And I had those moments as well. So,
well, you recently made the decision to come off the road. So was that a big part of that, trying to scale back and just finding what works for your life?
Yeah, that was the most emotional couple months of my business.
I can't imagine.
And I'm just so thankful in how it worked out, because my friend Shay, who I used to live really right next to, right down the road from.
That.
Yeah. She started mobile, and she's what inspired me to start mobile. And she has 2 little girls now, and she just felt a tug that it was time to be done. And I talked her through all that. I mean, it's like a roller coaster. It's so emotional, because I had a hard time explaining it to my husband and also my parents, because to them, a piece of equipment like a tractor is a means to an end.
Yeah.
And so when it's not working, you trade the tractor.
Yeah.
It's not super emotional unless maybe it's your first tractor, you know?
Right, yeah.
And it was just such an emotional thing for Shay. And I helped talk her through that. And then it was so funny. Like a month or 2 later, I was like, I think I'm done on the road too.
Wow.
So it's like I walked her through all of that. And then I had to walk through it myself. And she was kind of already had made the decision, made the announcement. And she was able to walk with me through mine too. And it just, I never, in 2017, I would have never imagined that going on the road would not be part of my story.
Yeah.
But your life at 23 is very different than your life at 30, 31.
Right.
And it just got to the point, like I said, you know, I just didn't love leaving as much. And I looked at how I would act the week before I left and how stressy-tessy I was. And I was like, that's not who I want to be.
Yeah.
That's not who I want to be. And so it just got to the point where I looked at it was very much an emotional decision, because the road was 15% of my sales.
Wow. But
it
huge
took
chunk of your time.
Yes. And so, you know, any expert business owner would be like, you should have got rid of that a long time ago. But because it was the avenue in which my business started and grew, because it was unique, right? Mm-hmm. Who's selling boots out of an Airstream? It really was the catalyst to my growth, because it created such an amazing story that wasn't like anybody else's, you know, especially with a niche product. And so it was just an emotional time. And I knew it was what I needed to do. And if you don't want your life to keep feeling like it had been feeling, you have to do something different, you know? And I just got to the point where I was like, okay, I think I'm done. And then we filmed some content of Pearl going down the road, and I put this song to it. What? Now I can't even think of what the song was. Landslide.
Yes. Yeah.
Landslide. And it talks about how you're getting older and how things change. And I had heard that song a million times, but I had listened to a couple renditions, one by Flatland Calvary and then one by Kelsey Ballerini. And I was just like, it just hit different. And I was like, it's time. Things are changing, and you can't, the famous line in business is you can't keep doing things the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
Those are the most dangerous. But when you get so comfortable doing things a certain way, it's hard to let go of. So we put that song to it, and that whole night I cried, and I knew I needed to post it. But I tell you what, making the decision to announcing the decision, that turmoil that came, even though you knew it was the right decision, it's just like I knew, and everyone's like, when I would start telling people, in my circle that I was going to make the announcement, they're like, well, you can always go back. And I think the most emotional part of all of it was I know that I'm not going to go back on the road with the Airstream. And so people can tell you that to make you feel better, but I just had a very strong sense that this is the end. And Shay sold her mobile, and it's going to go on and live a life in Nebraska, I believe. But Pearl, my Airstream, I kept. And so I told myself I got all sorts of ideas for it, but I told myself I need to give myself a year just to not do anything crazy and chaotic. Like, I'm really in this season of my line was deeper, not wider.
Yeah.
I want depth and intentionality and community and all of these different things, because I think, even the internet wants you to post so many times and you got to film every part of your life. Yeah. And that's changed a lot from when I started. Mm-hmm. And so really just trying to focus on depth and intentionality and community, and just bringing those all in, and no chaos. No chaos. That's my era right now, which feels good. So
good.
Big decision though. It was very emotional.
Yeah.
And once the decision was made, I was just like, I feel so light.
Oh, wow.
So I knew it needed to happen.
It was right.
Everybody's asked me too, have you been sad? I'm like, come May, when I used to be going out, but I won't miss the chaos of tearing Berch House apart in order to merchandise the Airstream.
Yeah.
And then not, having this place in disarray. So it's just a lot calmer and more simplified, and a lot less moving parts. So
proud of you. That's hard.
It was. You have to take a long look at yourself again.
Yeah.
Because to me, I feel like the Airstream has always made me a little cooler.
Well, it was just part of your brand.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge part.
Yeah.
And so I just was like, am I still going to be cool?
Absolutely.
But I feel like it's, it's just way more fitting for the era that I'm in. So it's a good decision. But yeah, it was hard, but I'm so thankful that I had great people to go through it with, and
good.
So encouraging. And now some of the stuff I've done since then, I'm like, I have the energy, and I don't have the thought of how am I going to make, because I redid the Airstream every year. Yeah. So it's I can really just better serve my people, both in my real life and that are connected with my business. So that feels great.
I'm so happy for you. And now that your business model has really shifted, what does that look like for what's ahead?
I don't really know. I mean, I feel like everybody's kind of been like, what's next? And I don't really know. I mean, like I said, I definitely want to pull everything deeper if I can. But the biggest thing is just really hosting intentional events here. And kind of like we talked about earlier, is giving it my all. I had events and they were really cool, but now I have so much time and space in my head to pull the details all the way through. And that feels really exciting. I want to pull vendors here from further away that you can't shop with just any time. Right. And that's scary. It's really scary. I'm launching a new brand here at Berch House. I feel like I'm in this era of doing scary and different things, but I'm really excited to be able to put myself out there, because I think for so long, I went to the same shows. Mm-hmm. I launched boots the same way. It wasn't forcing me to grow. Yep. And so now I'm in this kind of no chaos, but yet it's forcing me to grow, because, if I'm going to pull vendors from further away and they're going to travel to come pop up here, I need to make sure that I bring my A game. And so I have 5 or 6 events. I just kind of tentatively shared the schedule last week on my email, and they just really have a fun vibe. Each one has its own unique vibe, unique vendors that are going to come, and it's scary. It's really scary, but it's so exciting.
Yeah.
Like when I sit down in front of my computer and I start bringing those details together, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be fun. And I think that feels fun too.
Yeah. So everybody go sign up for Paige's email list. And seriously, this is just a side note, but you have the best emails, and I always use them as an example. So everybody listening, go sign up for Paige's emails. They're awesome.
I was just thinking the other day, I told my mom, I think I've only skipped 1 week, and it was like the week I got married or maybe the week after. And so it's every Friday. It's something that I do, and I really enjoy them because it feels like my brand, right? It's not super salesy. It's just kind of sharing a little bit of my life in a way that's not so noisy like social media.
Yeah.
It feels a little more intentional. So it's been fun doing those the last couple years.
You're really good at it.
Thank you.
So for everyone listening, I feel like as business owners, we all go through those phases where you kind of lose your passion and you have to reevaluate. So what was it for you that helped you get your passion back in those moments?
Making changes, hard changes.
Wow.
And so one of my biggest parts of deciding, the decision happened really fast to make the big change of getting off the road. But I went to this event, and the gal that puts it on was just like, I feel like you've lost your spark. And I'd felt it. But when somebody says it, you're like, wow, I need to do something different. And after that show, it felt like I'd maybe a little bit tapped out that market. And it just didn't feel as fun anymore. And it can't all be about fun.
Right.
But that's a big part of it. Like I firmly believe business done right should be fun. And I went to the next show, and on the way to the show, I remember talking to my friend. It was a little bit of a drive, and I was just like, I just don't know. I don't know if the road's it for me anymore. I've been doing it this is my 8th travel season. I just don't know. And I went to that show, and I was like, but I love this show. It's in the middle of nowhere. They clean out the cattle pasture, and that's where we're at. And it's just so special. And I was just like, but I'll always want to come here to Rolla. And that Friday night, I'd stayed with her friend, and she told me her friend talked to her and said, Paige is just really struggling right now. She feels like she's entering a new season, and she's just not sure about the road. And she came up to me that Friday night. She was like, I just feel like God's telling me that I need to tell you that this is my last fall market. And I feel like God's calling me to a new season. And I just had so much peace wash over me that like, okay, I'm done.
Yep.
And I came home from that show, and I told my parents, and I told John. Cried a lot. I was like, I'm done. So that was in October, and then I made that announcement towards the end of October, that was end of September, and I made the announcement in the middle of October. So it all happened really fast. But I tell you what, like, I feel like I'm on fire in a totally different way, which is fun.
So good. And almost, you kind of just have to rip the Band-Aid off and be like, okay, I'm done. That's it. I have to move on, instead of like spread it out for a long time. Because I've done that before too, and that's painful.
Yeah.
When you try to, slowly, and sometimes that works for people. But yeah.
And then it was like, we kind of made it a little chaotic because we wanted to have a final shindig, and me and Shay got to do it together.
Oh, that's
before
awesome.
Both of our mobiles, and it was back in Metamora at the vineyard right next to the schoolhouse.
Perfect.
So it was just this full circle moment, and then it's just been amazing. For a while, I just didn't have any ideas. The ideas, and I feel like my brain is a little idea factory, and so I knew something had to change, but I feel like you don't realize you're in the depths of it until you get out. And so then it's like I met up with my friend for coffee one day, and we planned literally all of my events, the vibes for this whole year in December. I was like, what? Set the dates. It just was like, okay, this feels easy again. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing is like we're so afraid to make decisions that change things. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as you do, it's like you were stopping your own momentum. Like I feel like for a whole year I lost momentum. And now it's back again, and it's just making the hard decisions. So much easier said than done. But you make those hard decisions, you get the momentum back, and it's like, wow, this is what's been missing the whole time. So momentum's a great thing.
It's amazing. And I think, fear as a small business owner, there's always this fear of like, what if I make the wrong decision and I mess the whole thing up?
Yeah.
And we put this pressure on ourselves.
Yeah. And I feel like I don't feel fear that much, but I feel like I'm feeling it kind of more now just because it's so much new. Yeah. And I think it's like it just catapults you into this new thing that you're doing. But I feel like, it's been, I feel like I've learned a lot about myself. But I think that, fear can also help drive you into that new direction that you need to go. So
use it for good.
Yes.
Yeah.
And don't let it make you sit still for too long.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, how do we follow along besides your email list? How else can we follow you, Paige?
I would say the best place is Instagram. That's always kind of been my home. I know that TikTok's kind of blown up, but there's also a point where I was like, Instagram feels like my home. So that's where I spend a majority of my time. Also Facebook. So both of those are just No Roots Boots.
Perfect. Well, thanks for being back on the podcast. Yes. I'm so proud of you.
Thanks.
Well, I love the incredible brand that Paige has built, and I really admire her willingness to just ask herself the hard questions and make those changes in her business to better serve what she wants out of life. I'm so excited to see her next steps and where this new phase of No Roots Boots takes her. Be sure to go give her a follow at the links in the show notes so you can follow along on this journey with her. Thanks to Paige for being on the podcast, and thanks to you for tuning in. Have a great day, everybody.